Good morning, everyone. My name is Mike Renick. I'm the broker associate with Keller Williams on the Water Sarasota, serving the west coast of Florida. Also the senior broker and the team lead for Team Renick Real Estate Services. Welcome to the October 3rd edition of Title Time with Mike and Mike. On these segments, we dive into issues to give you ideas and solutions, how to work through some tough spots. The real estate process is complex, but when we take it one step at a time, I'm proud of the fact that I partner almost every day of the week with experts that can help you and I out and bring information. So on Wednesday mornings, Title Time with Mike and Mike, Michael Hankin will be here momentarily. He's actually here. I haven't promoted him live yet because I love to do his background and bio, which he likes me not to do, but I'm going to do it anyway. So Michael Hankin is an attorney with a law firm of Hankin and Hankin. Mr. Hankin practices primarily in the areas of residential and commercial real estate transactions. He is an approved agent for Chicago Title Insurance Company, the Attorney's Title Insurance Fund, and the Old Republic Title Insurance Company. He's been designated as a board-certified real estate attorney, the highest level of recognition in the Florida bar. He regularly represents buyers, sellers, and lenders in all aspects of real property transactions. He is just an all-around good guy. Let me bring him on here. And he'll be here momentarily. Good morning, Michael. How are you today?
Good morning, Mike. Doing great. And yourself?
Excellent. I shortened your bio by a little bit, but I really enjoy reading it because it means a lot that you take your time out of your busy schedule to share with us every Wednesday morning. So thank you.
Well, thanks for having me. I really do think education is the way to make the real estate closing processes smoother for everybody. When people are worried or they don't know things, they tend to get more worried and more anxious. So my hope is that these educational seminars we put on every week makes somebody's closing process a little better and a little simpler.
And I believe it does. So thank you again. Now, this week, we are going to talk about closing costs and prorations. That sounds really complex.
So this is the number one thing that people care about the most. If you're a buyer, how much is this going to cost you? If you're a seller, how much is your check going to be or wire going to be at the end of the day? So what I encourage our clients to do is give us a call at the beginning. After you've gotten your purchase price, or if you have a proposed purchase price figured out, give us a call and we'll be happy to give you as good of an estimate as we can at the beginning. There's some things we don't know, such as the amount of association dues and so forth that we find out during the process. So we can give you a more exact figure, obviously, later on. But at the beginning, give us a call or speak with yourself or any of your team members, and you'll come up with a good estimate. The process that I go through when I'm coming up with an estimate is I create what's called a net sheet. So I thought today I'd kind of go through my net sheet for a buyer and through a seller and tell you how I come up with what I believe the proposed amount due from the buyer or net to the seller is going to be. So the seller is easier. Let's start with them. I start top line with their purchase price. And then if the closing's in November or December, then if the seller's already paid the taxes, I'm going to add back in a proration for any portion of the November and December taxes they've already paid. If they've also similarly paid any association dues in advance, I'll add in my best estimate for what those are at the beginning. From there, I'll subtract out the real estate commission. I'll subtract out documentary taxes on the deed, which is typically 0.7%. And if the closing's in the first half of the year, January through October, really the first 10 months, then I'll subtract out a proration. And after that, I come up with a pretty good net number for the seller. And that's just a quick and dirty way to do it. Some brokerages add in some fees, and I hate to beat up on anybody, but there's a processing fee that some brokerages charge that range between $300 and $400. So that's something that may be included if your broker charges that as well. Shifting over to the buyer, doing their net sheet. I start on the top line with their purchase price. And similarly, I do the inverse that I did for the seller with the tax prorations. So if we're in November or December, the buyer is going to credit the seller back. We're going to add in the November or December taxes. We'll also add into the buyer's expenses any prepaid association dues. One of the buyer's biggest expenses is loan fees. And these vary so much from lender to lender. The best thing a buyer can do is get a document called a loan estimate from their lender at the beginning. And this is a document where the lender is required to disclose all of their fees. They'll typically be an origination fee, an appraisal fee, credit report, prepaid interest. If your loan's going to have escrows, there'll be escrow items. So it's really important to obtain that loan estimate from your lender at the beginning. One of the ways to get the best estimate from your lender overall is to get that loan estimate from your lender and then provide that to us when you're asking us to prepare your overall estimate. And that way we can use the best numbers available. In addition, we'll add in a year's worth of your homeowner's insurance policy, your condo insurance policy. Typically, the buyer pays for title insurance. That's always our recommendation, that the buyer pays for title insurance. So if that is the case, the title insurance is approximately $500 plus 0.5% of the purchase price. And we can give you an exact number on that once we have the purchase price. The reason I can't give you an even percentage that works is it's a graded scale. So for instance, it's 0.575% up to 100,000, and then it goes to a different rate up to 1 million, and then a different rate over 1 million. So there's not just one rate that applies. Also on the buyer's net sheet, we're going to add in a survey. If you're buying a condominium, that's not required. If you're buying a single family home and not getting a mortgage, it's not required, but certainly recommended. If you're buying a single family home and getting a mortgage, then we would need some sort of survey, either a survey from the seller that they can attest that there's not been any changes to, or a new survey. If we do have to go the new survey route, that'd be $400. We're going to add in also on our net sheet any inspection fees that may cost the buyer extra funds that they have not paid for prior to closing. And luckily, that's where we get to stop adding in things. From there, we'll subtract out any deposits the buyer's already made, and we're going to subtract out a tax proration that they'd receive a credit for if we're closing between January and October. And at the end of all of that, we do the math and we come up with the approximate buyer's net.
So basically the theory behind this, and we're getting a little bit of feedback in here. I don't know if it's something on my end. I apologize. The theory is, so it's to divide the cost depending on who owned it for how long. So when you have a transaction, the seller is selling his or her house. So they owned it for so many days in the year, the buyer is going to take it over. So what it does, it looks at spreading those costs out. Like in one of the complicating factors, and you covered it really well, Mike, is the property tax. We pay it at the end of the year here. So if a house is sold in June, the seller will have to give the buyer that part of the property tax because the buyer's bill will be due in full later in the year. Is that correct?
That's correct. Now, different municipalities charge taxes over different fiscal years. So I'm assuming for these purposes, it's a transaction, let's say in Manatee County, where all the taxes are in arrears. And then, yes, that's absolutely true. The tax bill comes out November 1st, and it covers January through December of the year it comes out. So the majority of it is behind. Most people think when they're paying their tax bill and it comes out in November, it's for the following year, but it's actually for that year. So starting January 2nd, you're already had a day's worth of accrual of taxes that are unpaid.
Yeah, and see that to me is probably the most complicating factor We get into like special assessments on Longbow. Right now, we have an undergrounding project that has 2 assessments. That all has to be worked out. But let me give the secret sauce, the top secret way this is going to be very easy. If there's no attorney involved in the transaction, it is the broker or the real estate agent's responsibility to make sure his buyer or seller understands every one of these. Would you agree with that, Mike?
Absolutely.
And if there is an attorney involved on this side, then the attorney and the broker or real estate agent, in a partnership with the buyer or the seller, we walk them through. There is no question that is stupid. There is no question that's inappropriate. Every dollar should be understood by the buyer or seller. And you do that by reaching out to us as your real estate agent or broker, or to someone like Mike as your attorney. Does that make sense, Michael?
Absolutely. I think getting good, solid advice at the beginning of the process is invaluable. You need to have a good understanding of what everything's going to cost so that there's no surprises at the end of the day. And knowing that going in really gets rid of the anxiety and the pressure and the stress where you're wondering and you don't know. And, it really, I think, helps smooth the process.
So if anyone has any more questions, please feel free to reach out either to Michael himself or to myself. We can walk you through this. We can create examples. The key is just kind of understanding in concept how it works. If you have a specific transaction going on, you do need to turn to your real estate agent or attorney to address specifics. But in terms of how things might work, both of us would be happy to do that. Right, Mike?
Absolutely. We'd be happy to. And please call anytime. We're happy to answer questions. And we love this stuff. So feel free to call and discuss anytime.
And, the real estate transaction is complex. We're going through one right now where I represent the buyers, and there's a whole lot of things that have to happen. They're not even thinking about the proration of costs, but that's going to come. But it's the strong partnership they need with their agent. In this case, it's Eric and myself, to help them understand each step before it's due. Like even, every single phase before an inspection occurs, who pays for the inspection? What are the responsibilities? What should we expect out of an inspection? That's all part of the cost. Now there's no proration with that. That's paid for by the buyer. But it just shows how complex this overall process is and why professionals are needed to work through it with you.
I agree. And it's, as time progresses, the real estate transactions get more and more complex. And unfortunately, a professional is more and more necessary. 15, 20 years ago, I think you could buy or sell a piece of property, FSBO, without too many problems. But there's a reason our standard contract is 12 pages long. And not including any of the addendums. There's really a lot that goes into it. I've been doing this for 16 years now, and every day I learn something new, and I expect that to continue. So, I hate to say it, but please seek professional help.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Michael, again, thank you. I appreciate this. I've got to look at some travel things coming up next week. I am traveling on Wednesday. I don't know what time yet. So we'll be back in touch with everybody. I am hoping we're still here at 9:00. But Michael, thank you. And I look forward to our next segment and continuing to tackle these tough issues. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike.